Is there anything more valuable in the NFL than the number one overall pick? Trading for this asset is almost always costly. It's going to involve multiple players, subsequent picks, and eternal scrutiny. All that for the big word in the sky, potential. But as the wise philosopher Bruce Arians once said,
"No risk it, no biscuit."
Let's see if that flour-filled baked disc was worth it. Ranking the times teams traded for the number one overall pick is coming up right after this. Life comes at you fast. Yesterday, you were a fun-loving kid. Today, hair grows in places you don't want it to. And if you're going to college, you need to get that under control. You don't want to be known around campus for having little Dickies fro down in your shorts. That's where the Perfect Package 4.0 Performance Bundle comes in, featuring the Lawnmower 4.0, the newly redesigned waterproof cordless trimmer that has skin-safe ceramic blades, and now has a power meter and travel lock. Personally, I love the power meter as it acts like a nightlight when it's charging so I can see and not pee on the floor. The kit comes with all the things you need: crop preserver ball deodorant, crop reviver, even a fresh pair of boxers, and a free travel bag. So after this video, head on over to manscaped.com/5-points and get 20% off your order and free international shipping and 2 free gifts. Again, that's manscaped.com/5-points from the link below. Head off to college with confidence. Manscaped, man maintenance for the modern gentleman. So for this video, I'm ranking the team that traded up for the number one overall pick, though we'll be discussing the team that traded down as well. Aside from sounding like a Star Wars side character, KI-JANA Carter was an electrifying Penn State running back whose pro career ended prematurely. And like most terrible things that happened in the NFL in the 90s, the Bengals, in his first preseason game, Carter tore a ligament in his knee and missed his whole rookie season. Over the rest of his stay in the Queen City, Carter tore his rotator cuff, broke his wrist, and dislocated his kneecap. In 5, they used the picks to grab their first ever QB, selecting Kerry Collins, his college teammate, 5th overall. Then in the second, they picked up Sean King. No, not that Sean King. No, not that Sean King either. Their Sean King underwhelmed in his 3 seasons with the upstart Panthers. But at least he wasn't KI-JANA Carter or Sean King. One of the more underrated quarterbacks in NFL history, Steve Bartkowski was a 6'4" rocket arm passer out of Cal. The Colts, who owned the number one pick in 1975, probably would have taken Bartkowski if not for the promising quarterback already on their roster. Future hair MVP Burt Jones, no, he was the actual MVP too. The Falcons were in the market for a QB, and all it took to move up from 3 to 1 was the 3rd overall pick, which turned into longtime guard Ken Huff and right tackle George Kuntz, who became an All-Pro in Atlanta. Bartkowski didn't quite figure it out until 1980, but when he did, it looked great. A 12-4 season, Atlanta's first division title in franchise history, and a couple of Pro Bowls. Ultimately, he was held back by a lack of talent, but trading up for Bartkowski made the Falcons relevant for the first time in their history, and that alone makes the trade worth it. The most common misconception about the Cowboys of the early 90s is that they nailed every draft pick. It's not true. They hit on Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, and a few others. But the 1991 first overall pick, Russell Maryland, was kind of a wash, especially when you consider that they sent the Patriots 3 vets, Ron Francis, David Howard, and Eugene Lockhart, their first rounder and a second rounder to move up to select a defensive tackle from the U. Maryland was certainly not a bust, making a Pro Bowl in his 3rd season. Just not worthy of the trade, especially when other first rounders like Eric Turner and Herman Moore were lurking in the top 10. Ultimately, if you're a Cowboys fan that was alive back then, you can't complain. Maryland was a contributor to 3 Super Bowl champions, but it does poke a hole in the idea that Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones were the greatest team builders ever to walk the planet. Jeff George could throw the ball really hard and really far. Unfortunately, that was about all he could do. Out of the 3 number 1 overall picks the Colts have spent on QBs, it goes Manning, Luck, 50 feet of crap, and then Jeff George. The Falcons, who held the quasi-first overall pick after the Cowboys blew it on Steve Walsh in the supplemental draft, traded it to Indy in exchange for All-Pro guard Chris Hinton, All-Pro wide receiver Andre Rison, and 3 picks, one of which turned into a solid wideout, Mike Pritchard. As for George, he lasted 4 interception-laden seasons in a Colts uniform before, ironically, joining the Falcons, where he had a couple of decent years. An extra slap in the face for Indy. Say what you will about Jared Goff, but he did lead LA to the Super Bowl, and even though he only put up 3 points, it's enough to not make this trade a total loss for the Rams. Though, wait till you see what the Titans got. To climb up to the top pick, the Rams sent Tennessee the 15th overall pick, 2 second-round picks, 2 third-rounders, and another first-rounder. Out of that haul, the Titans ended up with 3 playmakers: Jonnu Smith, Corey Davis, and a 2,000-yard rusher named Derrick Henry. The Rams' big mistake was not taking Goff, though they could have waited and selected Dak Prescott. Their error was handing Goff a massive second contract that aged like milk in the sun. Overall, Goff reached the playoffs 3 times as a Ram, but he'll always be remembered as the human avatar for the offensive mastermind that is Sean McVay, and being swapped for another former overall number 1 Matt Stafford in what I believe is the only time 2 number 1s have ever been traded for each other. Someone look that up. This one is a tough call. Irving FRYAR never quite reached his full potential in his 9 seasons in New England, but he did put together 4 1,000-yard seasons and 4 Pro Bowls as a Dolphin and an Eagle. It wasn't a bad decision to trade up for FRYAR, the only Patriot that scored in Super Bowl 20 against the 4-6 defense of the Bears. The problem was not having a passing game to show off his skills. The price wasn't too high either. New England sent the 16th pick, number 28, and 2 late rounders to Cincy to move up to the number 1 overall. The Bengals haul landed them a solid interior lineman, but that was about it. Ultimately, FRYAR broke 12,000 yards and put up 84 touchdowns in his 17-year career. It's just that almost none of that happened in New England. Let's start here. This trade involves a Hall of Famer and a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Earl Campbell made it to the Hall, making this trade a win for Houston, and Tampa did come away with a Super Bowl MVP. The only problem is that the quarterback won it with a different team. We're talking about Doug Williams, who tossed 5 touchdowns in Super Bowl 22 Earl has ever put together. Alright, so this one doesn't really count, but we're gonna give it a quick honorable mention. The Giants traded for a disgruntled Eli Manning, sending Phillip Rivers to the Chargers, as well as picks that turned into Nate Kading and Sean Merriman. Both sides made out well in this trade, but given the couple of rings, I'd say the Giants were happy they pulled the trigger on the younger Manning. In order to gain the right to draft the future cover star of Madden 2004, the Falcons shipped their 2001 first and third rounder, a 2002 second rounder, and wide receiver Tim Dwight to San Diego to move up from 5th overall to 1st, where they selected Virginia Tech quarterback Michael Vick. This is a rare trade that worked out for both teams. Vick made 3 Pro Bowls in 6 seasons with the Falcons, leading them to the playoffs twice, and most importantly, selling a shit ton of jerseys. For the Chargers, they moved back and selected a Hall of Famer, TCU running back LaDainian Tomlinson. All he did was rush for over 13,000 career yards, set the single season touchdown record, and that actually happened a round earlier. The Falcons' third rounder turned into Tay Cody, a defensive back who lasted 3 seasons, and next year's second was used to take the late Riche Caldwell, whose best season came as a Patriot in 2006. But the blockbuster deal was about the 2 stars, Vick for Tomlinson. A pretty fair trade, though what happened to Michael Vick? In a not so shocking move,
You blew it!
the Jets blew it when they traded the first pick to the Rams in 1997. This was the second straight season the Jets finished last in the league, and a year before they spent the top pick on a wideout, Keyshawn Johnson. New York accepted the 6th overall pick, a 4th rounder, and a 7th rounder from the Rams in exchange for numero uno. Pretty light compensation if you ask me. With the top pick, the Rams nabbed Ohio State tackle Orlando Pace, a future Hall of Famer who became the anchor for the greatest show on turf. The Jets came away with linebacker James Farrior, who really didn't take off until joining the Steelers in 2002, running back Leon Johnson, defensive end Terry Day, who played in one NFL game. Ultimately, the Jets were screwed by one simple fact: Peyton Manning decided to stay another year at Tennessee. Imagine if he had come out early. NFL history would have been altered forever. New York would be the home to both Manning brothers, and the Jets would have had the honor of wasting Manning's career. So what have we learned? Basically, if you nail the pick, there's really no price too high to move up to the number 1 overall slot. If you miss, you're gonna look extra dumb and set back your franchise for a few years. Or look like the New York Jets. If the reverse is true too, trade out of the number 1 pick and avoid picking a bust, and you'll look like a genius. But miss out on an Orlando Pace and you're gonna be kicking yourself for a decade plus. Again, looking like the New York Jets. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more interesting videos on sports. I'm 5 Points Vids, and you made it to my next film/video.